Welcome back to the Fear and Beer podcast,
where we discuss all things Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies, and just a little bit of beer.
So kill the lights, grab a cold one, and join us as we dive into this mad world we love.
I'm Nick.
I'm Seamus.
And I'm Jamie.
Like scary movies.
Uh-huh.
Here's Johnny.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You miss me.
Aren't you drinking?
I never drink. Why?
And as a reminder to all listening, if you want to help us to continue growing as a podcast, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on whichever streaming platform you use.
To stay up to date with us and all of our episodes, be sure to follow all of our socials. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Fear and Beer Pod.
Feel free to reach out to us. We love to interact with you all.
Is it too early to be talking about HHN33? No? Okay, perfect. Good. I'm glad that was the consensus because we are...
I just wasn't going to argue with you. That's all.
We're going to be talking about that stuff. We always like to get the jump on stuff, and we did this last year. We do our way too early predictions for HHN33. And funny enough, we actually got some stuff. I mean, we throw a lot of stuff at the wall, but if I look back correctly at our notes from last year, on our notes, we had Chucky, but we were discussing that previously before that announcement. We also had The Last of Us. We had Exorcist because of the new movie. We knew that was coming out. We had Evil Dead Rise, which didn't happen in Orlando, but it happened in Hollywood. We had Universal Monsters, Hunchback, and Phantom, which we sort of got. And we also put Yeti on our list for last year because we were going through cryptids, and we landed on Yeti. So we actually kind of got a decent amount of stuff right. That's not a promise by any means that we're going to get right again this year, but I mean, shit, we got a little bit of a track record, so let's just keep on keeping on. That's what we got for today's episode. As you can see us. We're actually trying some new stuff. Hey there. There's a little camera right there. We're trying some new stuff over here at Fear and Beer. We're going to try and do some video format stuff for you too. We used to film some stuff, but it's just a lot easier to record remotely. It's a lot easier to edit it all. So we'll see what happens with this. You know, we're kind of working with some stuff here and there, so I'm sure things will change along the way. But this is what you're getting for right now, and I'm probably not going to look at the camera too much. You just get to see the side of my face. I'm going to play with colors during the course of these episodes. So yeah,
you get to look at my ugly mug the whole time.
I look at the camera a lot, so don't worry.
Yeah. So that's fun. I guess before we get into the episode, we did get our Spotify Wrapped this year. We got it early, which is weird that they don't take December into consideration, which is kind of good for us because we kind of go through a lull in December. But some interesting stuff. It's always fun to check out. We're up 47% listeners and 60. Awesome. What is it? 60 something. 61%, I think, of our listeners found us in 2023. So that's crazy.
A lot of them started this year. So
yeah, that's crazy. So more than half of our listeners started this year. So thanks for finding us. Tell your friends. Maybe next year we can get another 61%. Would be cool. It is always fun just to see these stats. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're on, let's see, almost 400 people's top 10 podcast. I mean, we're a small podcast within our own market. So the fact that we have that many is it's a nice little pat on the back. It's fun. We by no means are a big podcast. We are a medium-sized fish in a small pond. Yeah, but we'll see what this year brings. This year, like I said, we're doing a lot of cool new stuff, and we've already kind of started to do that. We've implemented these videos. God bless you. We started our Shutter Sunday back on up. We have started our What to Watch Wednesdays, and we got a couple more little things that we're going to be bringing your way. So be on the lookout. We are trying to do some big things this year. We're trying to switch it up, especially during the off season, make it a little bit more fun because obviously there's not a whole lot of HHN stuff to talk about throughout the year. But before we do our main segment, let's get into our beer. I'm back on drinking some beers. I know I took a little hiatus, but yeah, I'm going to crack one open. So this, I should have pulled up the information. It's all condensation now. This is the Pumpkin Haze IPA. It's a 6.8%. It's a ale, pumpkin, and natural flavors. And I should have figured this out. It is 21st Amendment Brewery. So that's kind of what I'm working with right now. So I'm just going to crack this open and Jamie, I think you got a little beer too. If you want to crack yours open, let them know what you got.
I do. This little fun guy that I got is from 450 North Brewing Co. I think they have like the slushy XL ones. I can actually show you the can now. Fun. But this one is a strawberry kiwi fluff smoothie style sour. That's a tongue twister. And it's a 5.6% ABV.
Yeah, this is fun. So you said 6.8? That's what mine.
5.6.
Oh, 5.6. Mine's
If I'm
6.8.
not
But
mistaken.
can art is
5.3.
real.
Ooh.
Can art's really, really cool on this thing. I got to go through my pumpkin beers before we tap into all those winter heavy beers that I do enjoy as well. So very, very fun stuff. So you know the deal. One sniff, one taste, and we'll kind of get on into these.
I'm over here killing
Werewolves.
Werewolves. That's what I
The
do.
silver bolts. Yeah, a decent pumpkin off the note. So let's see what this thing. It has been in the fridge for like 3 or 4 weeks, so it might have altered a little bit, but interesting.
That was mine.
Definitely more sweet. It's not bad by any means, but it doesn't taste like an IPA at all. It's definitely got some sweetness to it. Yeah, I mean, not terrible. I've had a lot worse. I've had a lot worse on this program. So let's just get on into the main segment of things. So I sent everybody the list that I was kind of working off of. I mean, I got 2 that I like feel very confident in. So we should just get into those because those are just kind of easy pickings. And I forget, I think every year we do this, we kind of change our grading system. We always either vote it not likely, likely, or very likely. So we'll just stick with that. I think that's the best way to do it. So that way, when we say not likely, we can still claim credit that we said it. We just didn't say it was very likely, but it came to fruition. So I'll just kick off. I mean, everybody in the world thinks this is coming. I think this is a very likely Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think there's been an easier pick besides maybe, and even Stranger Things was pretty like, is it coming? Is it not coming? But I mean, this checks all the boxes, right? It's got Blumhouse Productions. It's on Peacock. They had posters up of it last year. They had the Five Nights at Freddy's, photo oppy thing over in Hollywood. I would imagine that this is coming next year. This is probably one of their headliners, I would imagine. What do you guys think on that?
So I definitely put that down as well, but I also put down that I kind of have a feeling that I think it would be, I mean, they got the money for it, but I think it would be so much money for them to do a full house. I think we're going to kind of get gypped. And if it does happen, I think it's going to be a Horrors of Blumhouse house. And I think it's going to be split in between 2. But the question is, what else would they do to coincide with it is the only thing.
Seamus, what do you think they're going to split it with if they split it? Was it
I
something that we already saw this year?
I hope not.
In a form of street performers?
I hope
No,
not.
that's
really
not
don't.
what I thought, actually.
What did you think?
Totally killer. Because when we watched it, it reminded me of a lot of Freaky. And they had Freaky with the black phone. And I feel like those are 2 very opposite movies as well.
Yeah, I do love that movie. That movie was really fun.
Bad.
I
didn't
rewatch
mind it
it
either.
That was like I kind of tossed around the idea of putting that on my list, but I figured it was a little far fetched just because it wasn't. I didn't see a lot of people talk about it. It kind of just like came out, went away, and that was a quick little in and out movie. But I mean, I don't see them splitting this up. I see this going full blown Five Nights just based off of how popular it is. It's tough. Seamus, what do you think about Five Nights?
I think you pretty much covered the main point. I think it's just one of those things that is almost guaranteed. They wouldn't have. Well, I don't want to say it's 100% guaranteed because I feel like if it was, they would have announced it already. But yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be at this point, and it would have to be its own house. I think it's too much of a big idea for it not to be. The characters are too it would require too much too much space for it to be like half a house. So I think that it'll be its own house, probably in the same building, so they can pull some sort of like Chucky like deal where you split it up between like say like the pizzeria at one point and then at another point. I don't really know. I haven't seen the movie yet, to be honest with you. I'm probably not going to see the movie, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the movie's fine.
yeah, and it's exactly it. It's from what I've heard, it's fine. It's okay. It's nothing that I would say, breaks the mold in any way. But
Yeah,
it also feels like a safe movie too. And what I mean by that is it feels like it's like super, not necessarily for kids, but it's like baby's first horror movie type thing, which doesn't excite me. So I don't know, but
yeah, it definitely checks a lot of boxes, right? Where it's like, like we talked about, it's Blumhouse, it's kind of been poster, it's been showing off at the park already. And to top it off, it also follows that trend of the video game. We had Last of Us last year. We know Horror Nights is very trendy. They seemingly do a lot of something in a row. Monsters, Netflix, Blumhouse, Purge, Walking Dead, whatever it is, they do consistently do things pretty often. So if they did do video games, this kind of checks the box off again. They could just straight up go, it's the video game, not the movie, but because they have that connection with Blumhouse, I would say that this is very likely. Jamie, do you put this as not very likely or unlikely, likely, or very likely? I guess
Likely.
like you're right in the middle.
Likely, right in the middle. I was going to
All
say
right.
fairly likely, but likely is a better grading scale.
Yeah. Seamus, where do you stand on that?
is there something higher than very likely that I can use?
Guaranteed.
Yeah. No, very likely. I don't think it's something that we can be surprised if they're like, hey, just so you know, coming next year at HHN 33 or 4, whatever the hell number it is.
3?
We've got
33.
Freddy, the Fazbear icon. He's coming back. He's coming to the event. Get ready. And we're all going to go, yay. Because I don't think anybody. I say that, and this will be the house with like a 2.5 hour wait because everyone's
I'm
I
sure
know.
fucking insane. But it's a sign. Whatever the point.
it probably will.
I'm kidding. You're not insane if you like this movie. It's okay. It's okay. I
You're
just think
insane
this
if
is
you
going
wait
to be
2.5 hours for a house.
Yeah, this is going to be another one of those Last of Us situations with me, anyways, where it's going to be like I'm not waiting the length of time that it's going to need to be to ride this ride.
Well, it wouldn't be Fear and Beer if we didn't have technical difficulties. I don't know what
This is what happens when we try new
out.
shit. See,
We
this
try
is
new
just, it tells us we're like they don't want to see your face, man. They don't
Like,
care
get
about
off,
your
get
face.
off.
Just turn the screen off.
But I believe we're just
Kidding,
kind of wrapping
I
up our wrapping up our discussions on Five Nights at Freddy's. I said very likely. Seamus said very likely. Jamie is
More than very
just likely. But yeah, I think
Just
that's
gotta be different, don't you?
I
Yeah,
do.
just gotta be.
Gotta be different.
Okay.
So
So let's go down.
has to talk sense.
So let's go down to our next my next one that we know is coming, right? Universal Monsters is coming. It's just what iteration? What are we gonna get? Any guesses? Let's go around the horn and Jamie, what's your guess as to? I think we all have at least one person that we're gonna guess, but I'm curious what the others that are gonna kind of be involved because there's no way that they do a singular character.
So I was kind of hoping they would do a singular character being the creature from the Black Lagoon, which I kind of think we were all hoping for. But I was trying to think about it earlier, and I really don't know who they would try to like mash him up with in a house.
It's tough. I have one idea, but I still think that they love throwing more than just one, more than just two in a house. So I'm curious who the other 3 or 4 might be, but
What
I
were
have
you
my 1 and
thinking?
2. I'll get to that in a second. Seamus, what do
Okay.
you think for monsters?
Well, I don't want to say the easy answer, like you said. I'm not gonna consider creature one that I think is gonna happen. I'm gonna consider creature one I want to happen, but I don't think it will. I think what'll end up happening is it'll be something like Frankenstein again and mixing Frankenstein with somebody. They haven't done him in what, 2 years now, 3 years.
Yeah, even more, because he was really, I mean, he was in Brides, but just as like a backstory or a side character. But it's been really since that compilation one since we really saw big old Frankenstein stomping
so
around.
We haven't had Frankie in probably since then. So my guess is that the safe bet is it's going to be Frankie and maybe one other monster together. Well, probably, actually not maybe, probably with one other monster, and maybe that's what we get the new character. But yeah, maybe they bring Wolfman back and they do like a Frankie and Wolfman, or because there's really, I'm trying to think of other ones they haven't done that are not obscure.
Yeah, they've done just about.
They've pretty much done all of the big ones, right? I mean, they haven't
out
really
of options here.
Yeah, so my guess is, I mean, again, I would even put like some stock in potentially doing another, like the first one, another
mask compilation,
mashup compilation, like different monsters for different scenes type thing. And then again, here's a low key guess. Maybe we don't get a Monsters House next year. Maybe they take a break.
Ooh.
That is interesting.
Maybe, honestly.
Because maybe they feel like after 4 years, we've kind of like, we need to take a moment to breathe. Yeah. Maybe we don't want to cause too much fatigue on it. You know what I mean? Like they've done so well with the monster houses, whether or not you like it, they've done a really good job with them. Yeah. So they don't want to maybe get stuck in a situation where they play it out too soon, and then everybody gets pissed because like, oh my god, another year, another Monsters House.
Yeah. So I'm kind of gonna pick both of you. Mine is Universal Monsters Creatures, and I think they use Creature and Frankenstein. So I think they're both kind of.
Sorry, I was cheering not that. I mean, I'm happy for that, but I was cheering because something happened. So, sports ball.
Yeah, so I think it's both Creature and Frankenstein. Maybe they throw somebody else in there, but I think kind of like how we had Unmasked, where it kind of tells you a little bit, Phantom's Mask and Jekyll and Hyde Mask, stuff like that. It kind of ties in. So I think it's Creatures is the title or something along those lines. And I think we get Frankenstein and Creature because also I believe this is the last HHN before we get Epic to open. Because it would be fall of 24 and Epic opens summer of 25.
Yes, I think so.
So they're going to want to push the Monsters Land in that aspect because they want to hype you up for the Monsters Land. So I think we get maybe like the setting is maybe Frankenstein's like castle and stuff like that. And then Creature is out surveying his lagoon or whatever it might be. But I'm pretty likely on those two characters and a Monsters House. So Jamie, where are you at with the likely scale of an iteration of Monsters and then an iteration that involves either of those, I guess?
Very likely on the iteration of a Monsters House. Likely on the character choosing. Just because, kind of like Seamus said, just because I feel like Creature is something I would want there more than I think that they would actually do it. But like I said, too, I feel like they're kind of running out of monsters to use. I feel like he's the only one who hasn't really been utilized that much, like in any of the Monsters houses. I don't think he has been at all, except
the
first one. Yeah. So
and he was in like a coffin.
He was, yeah. Yeah, it didn't really count. So I do want to say it's likely because as much as I would like for it to be there, you never really know. They could use the same thing with Dracula. They've reused Dracula. They've reused the Mummy. Or no, they've only done Mummy once, but
yeah, they were all in that compilation, so they've all kind of got tagged in once or twice. But I think, like Seamus was saying with that monster fatigue, I think we go away from the monsters in 25 because they're gonna want you to go see them at Epic. So they're gonna like not give it to you at Horror Nights, so you have to go to Epic to go see it. So I think this is their last showcase.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if it'll be the last time, but
well, not in total, but like I think we take that break once Epic opens, and then maybe the year after we come back, and maybe in 3 years when we're still doing this podcast, we talk about it.
I don't think it's wild to think that they see that all right, we've done this 2 or 3 times now. 3 times in a row where we've had some sort of combination of monsters and how much more can we do, really? Like, without rehashing stuff? And it's like, is it too soon to rehash stuff? I'd be pissed if they did a Monsters House and then just rehashed a bunch of scenes and stuff from 3 years ago.
As would I. So
Because again, there's only so much you can do with, like, if you do a compilation. All right, you have Frankenstein. What do you put Frankenstein with? Like, you can't put Frankenstein in Manhattan. Like, that don't work.
They did with Jason.
Yeah,
it worked out great.
That was technically Toronto. They just said Manhattan because they did like one scene in Times Square or whatever the
Mostly Jason on a boat.
Yeah, basically, it was basically Jason on a boat for 90% of the movie. Anyways,
I loved it. It's great.
I love that movie. So don't take this as I hate that movie. I actually have a signed poster from Kane Hodder on my wall.
Next thing we need is Jason. Jason Takes Manhattan remake with James Cameron directing it.
Or a sequel or prequel.
How would you can merge that with Titanic? That's the movie we need.
But everyone thinks
Jason
we're Friday the 13th haters now.
I love Friday. All right, let's move along to some other stuff that is semi-trendy, and that would be Netflix. I really only have like two kind of things that we could point to from Netflix and say maybe. One being the fall of the House of Usher, another Mike Flanagan property. We've seen him before with Haunting of Hill House. And I guess you could throw Haunting of Bly Manor in there as well. I know Jamie's going to mention that, I'm sure.
Woo.
And then the last of those three would be Fear Street. We talked about Fear Street before with, last year or the year before with the popularity. I know the popularity has kind of declined. It is not a real hot commodity now. But why don't we go through those three and kind of dissect it a little bit and see what's, what we think about those three. So, Jamie, what do you think on those three?
So funny that you mentioned Fear Street because I feel like not too long ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I saw an article about a new Fear Street possibly coming out, but I could just be making
I didn't see that.
I could just be making that up, so definitely don't take my word for it because I tend to do that pretty often. But I would really love something from Mike Flanagan and that universe to come back. As much as I would love Haunting of Bly Manor, like you said, I was going to mention it. I honestly don't think they would do it just because I don't think it was received very well as Haunting of Hill House was. The Fall of the House of the Usher, I still haven't watched it. I've watched a couple of the episodes with you, but I haven't finished it. But I could see that being more likely than something as Haunting of Bly Manor or Midnight Mass, for example, because I feel like the kind of hype for those have already died out a little bit. And same kind of thing with Fear Street as well. Unless they were coming out with a new trilogy or a new iteration of the film, then I think it's kind of gone left ship at that point. Left the port.
Seamus, thoughts on any Netflix properties in particular? Or?
Well, I'm too poor to have Netflix right now, so I don't really watch a lot of it at the moment. Fear Street would be interesting. Fear Street would be interesting.
Yeah.
But part of me also wonders, is it too old at this point to do it? If they were going to do it, you would think they would have banked on they would have banked on that hype when the movie was new.
Yeah.
Like certain things like Stranger Things obviously is still relevant, so that's why they would do something like that. But that's the only question I'd have with that one. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they would do it, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure how I feel.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't watched Fall of the House of Usher yet. I would like to, again, once I can get my hands on Netflix again, because that one's supposed to be really good.
Just don't tell Netflix.
But what is... Sorry, I know you keep seeing little gremlins in the background. My gremlins don't want to stop talking for 5 minutes. But is that show even like truly a horror show? And I'm talking about Usher. I'm not necessarily talking about Fear Street, because I've heard it's like kind of like a thriller, almost like a court thriller type thing. Is what they're kind of taking the story?
Yeah, it's very much more in the thriller sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's more in the thriller sense, but there's a lot of jump scares, but I don't know how it translates to a house.
I wouldn't mind potentially seeing, and it's probably not going to happen, but Midnight Mass was a big one for me last year.
I loved that.
I don't know, is it something that they would do, or could they do it? Maybe. Same idea. Is there not enough there for it to really make sense as a house? Because it's again another one of those Mike Flanagan shows where there's not a whole lot of visual like remembrance or things to like really to look at visually. It's a lot of story based stuff, a lot of character based stuff. So could they make that to make that a house? Obviously, The Last of Us is proof that it doesn't always work. You know, they take a really, really good property, a really, really good cast of characters, and they don't do a great job with the house because there's not a lot to work with. So is that part of the problem with some of the stuff on Netflix? I don't know. Fear Street, I want to see it, but I don't necessarily think that it's something that we can bank on or guarantee, to be 100% certain of.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board. I think Netflix takes the backseat again. I don't think there's really been anything super relevant that's come out that kind of fits in our world of Horror Nights. So I think any of those Netflix properties, I'm kind of going to go with a unlikely. I don't really see it happening. I mean, I'd even be surprised if we got one. Jamie, what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, what about a Wednesday house?
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think of Wednesday. That could be a big main.
I mean, it's tough headliner. Because it's not necessarily Netflix's own thing. It's obviously the Addams Family, but if you did like an Addams Family Wednesday style house with those characters, it's relevant. People like it. I've never seen it, but I've heard good things.
And I never finished it.
And I like Jenna Ortega too. She's a cool person.
Yeah. I never finished that. So I guess I'm going to say unlikely still, but I would say if any of them, I would say Wednesday would be a great headliner because I'm trying to scratch my head on stuff on like what would headline this year. There's not like, unless they do another classic or something, there's nothing, which we'll get into, but yeah, I mean, I guess I could see Wednesday being the front runner of Netflix series, but I think overall maybe unlikely is my pick still for the Netflix pile of stuff we're gonna go through. Jamie, what do you think on the Netflix properties, Wednesday, Fall of Usher, anything like that?
I'm gonna say unlikely as well. I feel like other than Stranger Things, I feel like that's been Netflix's kind of biggest hype for right now. Other than Wednesday, I didn't even honestly think about that, Seamus, until you brought it up. But I don't know when the second season is supposed to come out because Jenna Ortega is filming Beetlejuice and stuff like that. So if it comes out next year, I think it would go hand in hand and be perfect for the release and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I'm not sure.
Look at the release date.
Yeah, here. Since we're recording, I could look it up now.
Yeah,
but but I would say.
Seamus, what do you think? Yeah, Seamus, what do you think on the Netflix stuff?
I think it's too early to tell. I'm not going to say any of it is likely yet. I think it's all not likely. But I'm also not ready to say that we won't have anything Netflix related. I mean, I think they've got too much of a partnership now with the company for them to completely ignore it. I don't know. Have we had, at least since I've been going, 2019, we had Stranger Things. 2020 wasn't a thing. 2021 was Hill House, right?
Yeah.
22. Was there anything last year?
There was like a skip. So I think we went Stranger Things 1, Stranger Things 2 and 3, Hill House,
nothing,
skip,
and then Hill House,
and then Stranger Things 4.
Okay. So I mean, it's not a guarantee that we'll get anything from Netflix, but I feel like the partnership's there. So if something good comes up, then obviously they'll look at using it. And again, I still think as of right now, I think Fear Street's probably the most likely, but I still think it's not likely.
Yeah.
Or I guess the lowest of the likelies, that's what I'm using for Fear Street, because I think Fear Street is likely, but not super likely, I guess, if that makes sense.
Let's get into some stuff that I know Seamus will probably want to talk about.
Oh boy.
Compilation of a new company that I don't think they've really worked with, A24.
Woo! Don't be tickling my fancies now, all right? Don't be getting the jingles going on in my tingles or whatever you want to call it. A24 would be sick.
Any like Midsommar, Hereditary style mashup things.
The problem is you're going too far back. I think if you go too far back in the catalog, people aren't gonna care as much. I think you really have to kind of find something that's relevant to now. Was that one that just came out? Talk to Me. Is that what it's
Talk to
called? Is
Me?
that an A24 movie or no?
Yes.
It is,
it?
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be one I could see. Again, it's hard to translate. I haven't watched it yet, but from what I've heard, it's kind of out there.
Yeah, I don't know how it would translate.
How would you translate it to a house? But again, we've said that about other houses, and we go, "Holy shit! They did that was amazing!" Like, so to think that they couldn't do it is silly, but that one's kind of hard. I'm trying to think of anything else that's recent that I've seen.
So I got one that's
Unfortunately,
going to be recent.
Go ahead.
Early 24, we should be getting the finale of the X Pearl Maxine trilogy.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
So do we do a Pearl House that's all 3 movies?
The only problem I have with those ones, and again, I haven't watched them yet. I've been waiting to see if I can find X on something, because you've got Pearl, I think, on your Vudu account that I looked at. But I got to find a way to watch X first without having to rent it. I'll rent it if I have to. But are those movies a little too hardcore for the event?
I mean,
they have to try to keep it PG-13. Well, X is about a porn being made, right?
Well,
so
it is, but they can skip around that part. They can just use
so.
the setting, I guess.
I guess so, but do they want to promote a movie like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to do like Friday the 13th, because the movie was made in the 80s. Yes, there's boobies in it, but I mean, what 14-year-old boy hasn't seen a pair of boobies before on the internet? But not to make it weird for you, Jamie, but I just feel like
14-year-old boy.
That's a hard story. Maybe you could translate it to a house, but I'm just worried that
even if we just stuck with Pearl or something like that.
Yeah, Pearl, you could obviously do Pearl, but I still don't think that one. I don't know if those movies resonate as much. It needs to be something that like resonates with a lot of people, and unfortunately, that's kind of what makes A24 not as cool to use, because I think A24 is very divisive. We'll put it. I think the community is very split on whether A24 is good or it's bad. And I also think that there's a very fine divide between the A24 people and the Blumhouse people, because Blumhouse, I mean, I like a lot of Blumhouse stuff, but you can kind of use Nick and I as the barometer here. Nick is the Blumhouse guy.
Yeah.
I'm the A24 guy. I like The Witch. I like all those weird fucking esoteric horror movies that make your head hurt, because it's the only thing that, I mean, again, I don't hate Blumhouse, but there's a lot of Blumhouse stuff that I'm not wild about. And I think Nick can say the same thing about A24. He likes A24, but he doesn't think everything.
Spoiler alert, that's probably going to be a new segment of ours at some point. We're going to do little short videos of me versus Jamie, Jamie versus Seamus versus me on movies.
It'll end up being me versus Nick primarily, because we hate we'll go at it quite a bit. And Jamie will be like the moderator, like in the middle. Oh, I kind of liked it. It was okay. No, it sucked. It was a piece of shit. No, you're wrong. No, I'm wrong. But either way, Midsummer would be cool, because I like the whole horror in midday type thing, or horror in the middle of the day thing, or sunny horror, we can call it. But I also feel like it's not incredibly relevant today, because it came out 3 years ago now at this point.
Yeah, but I think the names of like Midsommar and like Hereditary, I think there is a lasting power. I do think there's still kind of.
I think there is a little bit there. Yeah, Hereditary, I think would be the one I'd want to do, but
yeah. Again, that is a little bit of a tougher one to translate, but it would be a cool ending scene of like us in the treehouse with the kid with like the crown and stuff like that, and like the worshippers. But I feel like Midsommar 2, like maybe similar-ish to Blood Moon, so like maybe not the year after. I don't know. So Jamie, thoughts on any of like the A24 stuff we've discussed?
I don't think it's ever going to happen, to be real with you. I think that Universal has too good of a relationship with Blumhouse to ever have another big production company like that kind of come in, unless, and I feel in the sense that with how A24 is, I feel like they would want the house to be very specific. And I feel like they wouldn't let him do it unless they had that specific house that they wanted to do. Like, I feel like X they would never do. Pearl, I could see them doing. I think that could fit really well to a house. Midsummer, Hereditary, The Witch. The Witch I could see happening. Kind of the same thing. I feel like it would be a little too similar to the colonial style that we had with Blood Moon this year. But I unfortunately think it's pretty unlikely, and I wouldn't want to get my hopes up because I really do enjoy A24 films too, but I don't really see it happening in the near future.
See, I don't think the relationship with Blumhouse like factors in really. I think they're
You don't think so?
fine with like you
Huh.
talking to other people. Like they have a
Right.
bunch of different movie like bless you,
Bless you.
bunch of other movie production companies that they work with. Netflix being one. So
That's true though.
I
That's
don't think
true.
that comes into play at all. Really,
I don't think so either.
it's not a one versus the other. And I'm just trying to think of like new stuff that would be that headliner style house. I think A24's got a pretty deep collection. So I honestly I will say likely that we see a 24 film, and I honestly think it might be the Pearl stuff, being that the Maxine movie comes out in early 24. So I could see that being like a February March movie. Will that
I
be as
just
popular later on? But you know,
I just feel like it's too obscure. I don't know why. Not too obscure, but I feel like it's just like something that you really like wish would happen, but I'm just like there's no way they would do it. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
hard for
I'm
it's
with
hard for
Jamie
me
on
to
that
it's
one.
hard for me to explain though, honestly, because
yeah,
I feel like I'm not going to bring it up because I think we're going to talk about it later on in the list, but I also think that'll never happen to another one. And I
yeah.
feel like this is
I
kind of
think I
the
know what you're
same.
talking about.
I
So we'll
think so.
lead into that one.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
I'm going to go on. It seems like you both are unlikely for any A24 style thing.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely.
Although
Yeah.
I would,
All right,
I would like it to be likely.
I'll stick at my likely for that and just kind of give it a fighting chance at least. So we'll jump into our the one that I think you were alluding to, which was it's probably never going to happen, but we got to talk about it. Terrifier.
Ding ding.
We got the
Yeah.
third movie coming out next October.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be about the movie that hasn't released yet. You know, we've seen that with like Halloween is different iteration or whatever. So we don't have to do like a quote unquote Terrifier 3 house before it releases and have anything like that. You can just have Terrifier as a house leading up to the release of the movie as promotion. Jamie, what do you think on Terrifier? And I'll give my thoughts at the end once we go through you and Seamus.
I would love for Terrifier to come either the first or the second one, honestly, because how we were kind of talking about before with some of the Netflix properties and stuff like that. I feel like Terrifier being a whole franchise now with the third movie coming out left such like a lasting impression on so many people, and Art the Clown has become such this big icon in the horror genre in more recent horror movies and whatnot. So I think that it would be a very big draw, but do I think it would be very likely? No. I think that it is I don't want to say it's too much, too gory in that sense, because they've had probably scale wise same kind of gore levels or however you want to say it like that. But I just think that the great thing about Terrifier is that it started and it became such a low budget film, and Damien Leone, his films that he's done before with All Hallows Eve and All Hallows Eve 2, that it just grew and built from such a small thing, and now it's into such a big I don't want to say cult classic, but such a big film that a lot of people in the horror community really enjoy. So I want to say that it would be likely. You know what? I'm going to go with likely. I'm just going to go with likely and put it out there because I really think it would be a great draw, but
Well, that was easy.
maybe maybe
Talk
like
yourself
mid
into it.
likely. I don't know. I was because honestly I was going to say very unlikely to begin with, but I just want to say mid likely, I guess.
Likely. All right. So
Yeah.
Seamus, thoughts on Terrifier? Art the Clown making an appearance at Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I think personally, I think he loses some of the character if you do a house about him because he's so iconic.
That's what I was trying to get with Seamus.
And
Yes.
I forget the actor's name. I apologize.
David Howard
But
Thornton.
David Howard Thornton, he has such a good job as the character that you lose something if it's not him playing the character. I'm not saying that the characters that would be hired for it wouldn't be able to do it, but a lot of what makes that movie so terrifying, no pun intended, is his ability to emote without actually really acting. He's acting with his facial features, and he's terrifying. That clown makeup is horrifying. But is just the clown makeup going to work, or do you need the guy that can put the clown makeup on and kind of be like, and like do the facial stuff that he can do that really kind of makes you go, ugh, when you watch it? And plus that, I mean, granted, on the other side of that token, that movie's all about gore anyways. So the house would just be an utter gore fest. And that's all you really care about. You don't really so much care about what the characters look like in it, but I guess I could see it. I would think that if they do it, they might do an All Hallows Eve house and more focus on the original movie or short movie than just Terrifier itself. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's tricky because there's a lot of stuff in those movies that's like,
it's tough. It's a hard sell.
But that's a lot of horror movies and a lot of movies that have been at Horror Nights too. So like you can just pick and choose which parts of the movie you use, right? I mean, we had a house this year with children holding intestines around a maypole. Like,
it's a good point.
You know, they can do stuff. So I think the way to really tie in Terrifier is, I mean, it's pretty easy. It's just a lot of gore. You got some cool scenes. You could have him with the glasses on and stuff like that. With the third one coming out, and also this, I think is the first time it's getting a national release throughout all the theaters. They kind of re-released 1 and 2 in theaters as well. So the fact that it's being released at a large scale just goes to show that this has moved from that cult level to that next mainstream level. So it'd be interesting. It would be a good point for them to jump on the Art the Clown bandwagon, I guess, so to speak, and kind of showcase him off. So I'd say likely. I'd say it'd be, I don't want to say very likely. I'll say very likely. Art the Clown, Terrifier, you could just call it Terrifier and just have it based off of both the movies. And then at the very end, throw like a little nod to the third movie, because we all know it's Christmas related and stuff like that. I think it would fit right in. It really would. There's nothing that we have seen at Horror Nights that would like take away from Art the Clown. You know, we could use any sort of violence and level of gore that we've seen before, and it would still be the same Art the Clown. We just don't need the big naked chick getting sawed in half. You can leave that part in the movies.
That would have been the best part in the house. You have to have that scene.
I mean, you just put clothes on her, right?
Exactly. I was going to say, you could put clothes on her.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's ways around it. I really do. And I think he's gained such notoriety that it's got the attention of people, right? I mean, you're telling 100%. Me the people that put on Halloween Horror Nights don't know about Art the Clown and Terrifier? Oh, they're aware.
And the fans have been clamoring for something like that forever.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it's, again, like I said before, they try to aim for like a 13 plus audience. Is that movie just a little too hardcore for most of that age? Now, look, I get it. When we were 13, we probably watched just as much nasty shit. So like, whatever. But I just think as a business, as a company, they have to kind of be careful about what properties they use. They can get away with it with some of the older stuff, like the 80s stuff, because it is kind of cheesy and campy, and it doesn't really hold up.
Like and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about
like Saw. Even
we'll see.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because Leone. I mean, you have to admit, Leone pushes the limit.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like
it's probably going to be an NC-17 rating.
He wouldn't want it toned down either for the house. That's the thing.
Right. I mean, why would you do that? No, right. I don't think you have to tone it down for the house. I just think that if it really is a problem in that sense, they won't even do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not one of those deals where like, oh, well, they'll do it, but they got to tone it down. No, they just won't. They'll either do it like it's supposed to be, or they won't do it at all.
Exactly.
See, I think Leone, or whatever his name is, I don't think he would tone down his movies. He'll make his movies exactly how he wants to. But if he has execs at Universal being like, hey, we want you to be at Horror Nights, he'll just kind of do what they want. Like, he won't give full control, but I could see him being like, knowing that this is a big deal, saying, I understand some of my stuff from the movies can't translate, and that's okay. But as long as he gets that kind of push from being in the public eye that much, like, I think that would be a good enough reason for him to like maybe push away some of those extra moments in that movie.
Well, I don't know Mr. Damian Leone personally, but it's kind of the same thing with them having Universal having House of Thousand Corpses as a house, because originally when the movie
Yeah,
was
exactly.
supposed to come out, Universal Pictures didn't pick it up because of the NC-17 rating, so they were worried about it that it wouldn't get a good release, and they ended up making it his house. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I guess, and if you think about it too, House of Thousand Corpses is a little much, I guess,
there's a
for the
lot in
younger
there too.
audience too, and I feel like looking back at that house, I don't wanna say they toned it down, but like you said, they just picked, like, specific scenes that
Yeah,
weren't as crazy or
that
over
are
the top,
fine.
I guess, with Sherry Moon's tits hanging out and whatnot, but
Yeah, yeah, you can
so,
just go
I
around
think
those parts.
yeah, so, like I said, this could be likely. Terrifier,
All
Art the
right.
Clown, it would be cool.
All right, so let's jump out into my list of like rumored slash confirmed releases for the next year of stuff that we may have seen before in some iteration that we may see back again. And a lot of these projects, I don't know much about them yet, because I honestly just searched for them the other day to see what's releasing. And there's a lot of stuff coming out in the next year that are, whether they're sequels, remakes, whatever. Um, Alien. Alien has a new movie coming out. Alien Romulus comes out August 16th, 2024.
Stupidest fucking name I've ever heard. It's okay.
um,
I'm sure the movie's gonna be fine.
it's a standalone
Romulus.
installment, I guess. I don't think it has any real ties to like what's actually going on. Again, there really hasn't been much kind of out there yet. It is scheduled to be released on Hulu, so maybe the fact that it's on Hulu and under that 20th Century Fox thing is that now Disney property, is that kind of like just a complete untouchable. Um, but yeah, it's a standalone installment of the Alien franchise, and it's set between the events of Alien, the 79 movie, and Aliens in 86. So it's kind of like just in that world, but not with all those people. But it is produced by Ridley Scott, so he's going to actually have some sort of say on stuff like that. But I think the part that throws me is the 20th Century Fox being under the Disney umbrella now. I think that's a little bit tougher. But we've seen Alien in the past, so what do we think on that, Seamus? Do you have any like gauge of what you think we're going to see this, or if we will, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. I think that if there is a new movie coming out, if they can nail the rights for it, probably the original Alien, or at least some amalgamation of Alien or an Aliens type house. I think it's just it's the rights that become an issue with that one. I think that, like you said, part of it partially with the Disney thing, but they let Universal use Simpsons still, or maybe there's some sort of theme park thing there that changes it. But I think that they would find a way around that. I just don't know if they could get Fox to sell them the rights to it cheap enough. I think it'd be a little too expensive for Universal to pull off.
Yeah, because I think the last time we saw it was AVP, which was probably 24.
Oh, true. They did do AVP though, so
I was just gonna say, I'm looking at it right now, it's 2014, so it would be 10 years later if they would do another one of it.
Yeah, so that was at 24.
Mhm.
Yep. So then, Jamie, what do you think? Alien Romulus, it's kind of set between two movies, but it's its own thing. I mean, do you think we get a Romulus-style house? Would we get just an alien house?
If you want me to be real honest with you, I'm not a huge Alien fan, Alien versus Predator fan. I've never actually seen any of the movies. I'm pretty sure I did I'm pretty sure I did the Alien versus Predator house, if I'm not mistaken. But I just don't know if it would be a huge pull. I think maybe they could pull the card to where 10 years since they've had another Alien iteration house or something like that, but I don't know. I feel like Alien's not that, because I didn't even know about the series coming out. Maybe I heard something about it. I think I could have saw something about it, but I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't really grab the attention right now compared to some of the other things coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's really been shot. I mean, if it's been shot, it's just starting.
Oh, okay.
They obviously haven't pushed anything of this at all yet. It's just
Gotcha.
it's a name on the release date schedule to be coming in this year. So I mean,
Gotcha.
it doesn't come out until August 16th, 2024. So kind of would come out right before HHN kind of kicks off. But I I think the biggest blocking point for me is that it's 20th Century Fox. So I'm going to say unlikely for an Alien iteration. But again, if they did secure the rights for Alien, that's a headliner house. That's a big draw for the sci-fi horror fans. So, but I'll go unlikely. Jamie, what do you think then for Alien or Alien Romulus? Any sort of iteration of Alien?
Probably unlikely. And do you think it would be that big of a draw?
Alien, yes, 100%.
Really? Maybe it's
It
because 'cause I'm
is
just not that
iconic.
into
It
it, but
is
that's
Massive
you,
no,
I
draw.
guess.
it's
Alien is massive. It's huge. It's a big
huge.
property.
Alright.
It's one of the
I
biggest
honestly
True.
think
sci-fi
Alien is
properties
yeah.
in
I think
recent
Alien is
history.
more popular than the stuff like Friday the 13th and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
I
What?
think it will be a bigger
Really?
draw.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's bigger than slashers. It is. I mean, because just on its own, it is one of the best Well, Aliens is like kind of one of the best movies. I mean, there's a reason why there was a scene of it at Disney at the Great Movie Ride. It's a, it's better than a great movie, but it's it's up there. It's a lot of people's like top movies of all time. It's one of the best horror movies of all time.
Maybe I
It's
should
just an all
watch it.
time classic. It's kind of up there with The
Yeah.
Shining.
I have the
You
whole
have The
set on. Well, I
Shining?
have the first
Really?
3 on Blu-ray, so I'll let you
Yes.
borrow it.
Yeah,
I'll
I
have
think I
to
have that set as well. I think I
Oh,
have the
so never
whole
mind. You don't
series
need it
set.
then.
guess I'll
Yeah,
have to watch them.
it is up there with
At least watch
that.
Alien.
Yeah,
Aliens is completely different than Alien. It's not really a horror movie so much as it's like a horror action movie. It's like an action sci-fi. Kind of like how Predator isn't really a horror movie; it's an action movie. Sorry, everybody.
it is.
Sorry.
No, it is. It's a sci-fi action movie.
Right. Whereas Alien is more of a sci-fi horror movie because it plays out much like a slasher. You have an unkillable bad guy who's stalking you, and you don't know where it's coming from, and it's super intense. So the first movie, like perfection. Second movie, good for what it is. Third movie is trash. Um, and most
As
of
they
the
usually
Alien
go.
sequels tend to be trash, but that's besides
Yeah.
the point. But yeah, Alien, the first one, if you did an Alien movie and you were like going through the Nostromo, the house would have 3-hour waits.
Yeah, that's the big one. So then, Seamus, what do you think? It's likely, unlikely, very
Completely
likely?
unlikely.
I think it's out of the window. Yep.
All that
I,
hyping it
I
up and you think it's unlikely, huh?
if they had this house, it would be their headliner house, but I
think
don't
the
think it's that
problem
likely.
is this functions much like it. It is not going to happen because of the rights issue, and Alien's the same way. I think that AVP is one thing, but Alien, like just Alien, I think is a totally different deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love for them to get the right to just the xenomorph and be able to use the xenomorph in something.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Universal has with Hulk, where like Hulk's not really like their character, but it is, or vice. I don't know how it really works, but something like that, where you could at least use the xenomorph in an Alien style house. But I know that's not going to happen either.
So let's jump into something again that has been at Horror Nights before. It is coming back. There is another movie of it. It is Return to Silent Hill. There's a new movie coming out April 26th, 24. It's directed by Christoph Gaines, who actually directed the first Silent Hill movie in 2006. So it's kind of I think they're rebooting it, but they're letting the same guy direct it. But it is based off of the Silent Hill 2 video game. And we've had
So, do we get another video game style house? Based on, my guess is that if they do it, it would be like what they did with Last of Us. They base it more on the game than the movie, but
I think so too.
I don't see why that's a crazy thing to think. And I'm kind of with Jamie. I think that it's more likely than some of the other stuff we've talked about.
Yeah, I do too. I think I would put this in the likely category. I think it's a little bit more. There's more there for me to say yes instead of there is for me to say no. Just based off of the track record, the video games, there's a relationship there. There at least was at some point. Who knows how it ended, or it's been gone for so long. New management's in town. Who knows? But it shows that they, at least at 22, knew that this was a hot enough commodity that it warranted getting a house. So why not try it again, especially with the movie coming out? And again, you could do it like Last of Us. Doesn't have to be based off the movie. The movie is coming out, so you'll have that at your disposal. But I think it's likely. I think it's likely we get a trip to Silent Hill, and you could even keep the name too. Return to Silent Hill. We were there before, and it's been there before. So, Jamie, what do you think? Likely, unlikely, very likely?
I think it's pretty likely, and it's funny that you brought it up because I knew they were doing Return to Silent Hill, but I've been scrolling through the streaming services. I forgot which one I saw it on, but they just came out with Silent Hill Ascension, and it's a series essentially that they have it. Where the heck do they have it streaming on? I can't find it right now, but I know they had it on streaming, and I think it's either a game or it's like an interactive like series thing that they just came out with, kind of like how they did the Black Mirror Bandersnatch kind of thing. I never watched that either, but it's also based off the Silent Hill series in the games, and it's also published by Konami, which are the people who did the other Silent Hill games and stuff like that too. So, I mean, if they already came out with that, and then if they're coming out with the film next year, I feel like they're kind of just really hyping up Silent Hill right now. I like it because I really enjoy Silent Hill.
Yeah, it
So
looks like
I
Silent
think,
Hill Ascension's like a video game. Choose your whatever,
yeah,
choose your direction TV thing. I think it's an app itself, so it's kind of cool.
interactive streaming series. Interesting. So,
It's
yeah, I
kind of
might
like
have
a
to check that
choose
out
your
too.
story kind of thing.
Right. But yeah, so I could see Silent Hill being likely.
Likely. All right,
Mhm.
Seamus, what do we think on Silent Hill?
Yeah, I'll give it a likely. I don't think it's a very likely. I don't think anything. I mean, there's a couple things we've talked about tonight. It's very likely, but I could see it likely. I don't think it's crazy to think that they would do another property within that PlayStation video game horror realm, especially if there's a new property coming out in relation to it, just to kind of get some of that push. So yeah, I think it's likely.
Yeah, I think it's up there too. Let's move along to a couple things that I think are pretty unlikely, but I would be remiss if we didn't mention them at least. Beetlejuice 2 releases September 9th, 2024. Do we get a trip back to Beetlejuice?
Back to
Back to Beetlejuice?
back to
Well,
Do we get another swig of the old juice, man?
when is the new movie supposed to drop?
September 6th, 2024. So opening weekend, a week after opening weekend. Do we do just another Beetlejuice house and take a swing at it and say maybe we won't fuck it up completely this time? Maybe it'll actually be a fun house.
No.
No, you think no?
No.
So Jamie, thoughts on Beetlejuice 2? Because we'll just jump right to you because I think this one will be a little bit of a quicker thing.
Unlikely. I
Unlikely
don't
on
know.
Beetlejuice.
They just really crushed my spirit with that Beetlejuice house. I get it. It
Yeah, it
was
sucked.
COVID times and whatnot and all that kind of stuff, but I just feel like they really dropped the ball on it. And I was so excited as someone who really, really likes Beetlejuice. And listen, I mean, they did it with The Exorcist Believer for this year for releasing or for doing a house before the movie's released. So it could be a possibility, but I think that it's too close together to where I feel like Beetlejuice is that kind of movie to where the only house that it would ever need is the original of it. I really don't think it needs a sequel house. The movie's just coming out. People are hyped up about it, but it'll never live up to the hype of the original Beetlejuice, you know?
Yeah. Seamus? Anything on Beetlejuice, Beetlegeist?
No, probably not. I mean, unless
Juice
we were
Man.
getting Beetlejuice 2, I don't think we're going to get another house anytime soon. Sorry, Jess. I know that bothers you, but
I think the same thing. I think if we had never gotten Beetlejuice at 30, I would probably put this as like a very likely.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for a Beetlejuice 2. There's no reason to redo Beetlejuice 2 years after the fact, I think it was.
3 at that point.
I don't think that's a necessity.
Maybe.
Now these, no. So now these next two are like, one is a completely unconfirmed rumor, and one is like a weird rights thing. Supposedly there is an A24 Peacock series of Camp Crystal Lake coming out in 2024.
I have heard of this.
Yeah,
actually.
so the rumors are that there's the whole rights battle between the original writer of Friday the 13th and Sean S. Cunningham. Now, the way it ended, the dust settled, and everything kind of got litigated. Sean S. Cunningham owns the rights to the character Jason Voorhees, the hockey the hockey mask, everything like that. The writer of the original Friday the 13th gets the rights to Friday the 13th, but only what's in that original movie.
Correct.
So he gets
no
Camp Crystal Lake.
Well, there is,
he
but
gets
not our Jason.
You get baby Jason. So you get the lure of Jason, you get the mother killer, you get the setting of, and you get the name. But there is a A24 series just called Camp Crystal Lake, some sort of a prequel series of before that. Maybe that's going to tell us the story of like Jason as a child, because they can do that, and the tormenting of him and something with the mother or whatnot. But it's a Peacock series, so that shows that A24 and Peacock have some sort of connection, which could go back to our previous talks. It's been a while since we got to go to a Friday the 13th style house. What do we think on revisiting Camp Crystal Lake? It's tough without Jason, but like maybe the rights work different for houses. I don't know. But do you think there's any sort of Camp Crystal Lake or Jason iteration that we're gonna stumble upon this year, Seamus? I mean, you've kind of heard about this series a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's wild to think that. We obviously don't know anything about the series and what it's going to be about. It may have nothing to do with Jason Voorhees.
Yeah,
it could just be Crystal Lake and something completely unrelated. But I don't think it's wild to think we wouldn't get necessarily. It's been a very long time since we have had Jason in a house, right? I mean,
been a minute.
Cinema or whatever the hell that one was.
Been a minute. Well, I think Freddy versus Jason at 25.
Oh, Freddy versus Jason was probably it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a very long time. So maybe they're looking for a reason to bring him in. But you're right. The rights thing does kind of get kind of screwy with it. So I don't know how that works or how it would work. My guess is they probably can get the rights to the character. But if they're going to use this Crystal Lake show and there's an issue with Cunningham and the other writers, then maybe they wouldn't be able to make that work. But
no,
I don't know.
Jamie,
I guess we'll find out.
Thoughts on Camp Crystal Lake or Jason?
It's tough because I mean, if they do have that connection with Peacock, then I mean, maybe just because seeing last year we had the Peacock Bar and the Five Nights at Freddy's being streamed on Peacock immediately and all that kind of stuff. So you said that the series wouldn't have Jason in it though, if they don't have the rights to him, right?
Correct. It would just have Jason as a child.
See, I feel like that kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a Camp Crystal. I feel like if we were to get some sort of Camp Crystal Lake house, Friday the 13th house, I feel like I would want to see Jason there. I feel like he's really the big draw for that kind of thing, you know? And I feel like a lot of people would be disappointed because I feel like they kind of would be expecting to see Jason in that house if they think of a house.
Yeah, come on in, Camp Crystal Lake. We got everything you need.
Where the hell is he?
Jason.
So
the hell is this?
Right. So I'm probably gonna have to say unlikely.
I've been bamboozled. Man, it's tough because like again, we talk about like the stars aligning and the connections and connecting the dots and Peacock, stuff like that. I think it's unlikely as well, but it is interesting to note that that's out there. You know, it's coming. Seamus, do you think anything other than unlikely, or do you think likely, very likely?
I'm gonna give it probably an unlikely, but close to a likely, because with that show is coming out, and they do have the relationship with Peacock, so you never know. Things could happen, especially if anything that goes on Peacock. There's always a slimmer of hope because obviously it's their product, so everything that goes on there is there's a good chance, but
Yep. Now this is my last like IP that we'll talk about. And this is a very deep rumor. I've heard a couple different things or seen a couple different things. Nightmare on Elm Street. Supposedly the rights reverted back to the Wes Craven estate and they were auctioning them off. There was kind of a bidding war between companies. Now this is where I'm not sure where it landed, but a lot of the stuff that I've been reading is that the rights landed with Blumhouse to kickstart back up the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Jason Blum has always been a big advocate of the series. He is, Robert Englund has said he's done, but Jason Blum, if anybody can get somebody to come out of retirement, it's him. He just did it with The Exorcist and brought 90-year-old, whatever her name is, back onto the big screen. Yeah, 90-year-old Linda Blair to come back for an Exorcist movie. They did it with Halloween. They're doing it with Exorcist. It seems that they have the rights. I have zero idea when this movie is going to be even coming out or starting or anything like that. But do you think there's any sort of Freddy Krueger iteration that we're going to see? Because again, he's been gone just as long as Jason has, and we've seen Michael plenty of times. We've seen Leatherface. So if they have the rights, do they just license off and let them do a Nightmare on Elm Street older one? Do they just have them do a Nightmare on Elm Street house? Just do an original house, just like they did with Halloween? I don't know. I'd be interested.
I'd be here for it.
If
I think most of us would be.
If Blumhouse is the one calling the shots on their rights now, there doesn't have to be a new movie. They can just say, hey, catalog is ours. We got it from the Craven estate. We paid a hefty penny for it. Use Nightmare on Elm Street 1. We're coming out with a movie next year. So let's start kind of building the Freddy hype back up. I don't know. Let's go around the horn then. Jamie, Nightmare on Elm Street. Unlikely, likely, God, I'm an idiot. Unlikely, likely, or very likely. We need a new fucking system. This is
definitely stupid. Yeah, this word sucks. Likely sucks.
Why do I do this?
Man, it's tough to say. I feel like this is really overwhelming for me right now because I didn't hear about this. Nick, you definitely did your research for this episode. This is a lot of new information for me.
I knew that Blumhouse had something to do with it. I wasn't sure if it was confirmed or whatever, but
it's still rumors. I saw more people say that Blumhouse got it than didn't. I saw a couple people say that it's still back with New Line, but I don't think they could financially throw at the wall what Blumhouse
New Line still would. Even I didn't realize it was still a working movie studio.
Who knows? It might not be.
I think so. I feel like if they had the opportunity, because I feel like the only thing that makes me think it wouldn't be able to go if it's the rights thing, because I feel like if they had the opportunity to bring Nightmare on Elm Street back in any capacity, that they would, because it'd be a huge draw. I feel like even if you're not like a huge fan of horror, like in that horror community genre, like all that kind of stuff, I feel like you still know who Freddy Krueger is.
He's a name. You know who Freddy Krueger is.
He's a name, honestly. I mean, he's up there with Michael and Leatherface and stuff, and I kind of feel like he's a little bit bigger than some of the other ones. I just feel like he's come.
It doesn't matter
such a long way.
Who you are. Right. If you're going to horror nights, you know who Freddy Krueger is.
Exactly.
You know what Nightmare on Elm Street is. You know the guy with the claws and the sweater. You know who he is. And Blumhouse has more than enough fucking money.
They got good pull with them too.
The rights to that character, and to think that they wouldn't be able to do it. And I can't imagine the Craven estate being like, oh, we want a fucking stupid amount of money for him. Give us $2.5 billion. They're not going to do that. They want to keep Craven's name out there and in good graces with the community and with the industry. And if Jason Blum would be like, hey, we want to do it right. We know that remake wasn't widely accepted or well received. We want to do it right. And we want to bring this character to life again. They're going to do it. It's silly. So if a movie happens,
go ahead,
yes. If a movie happens, this will be a house. Will it be next year? I don't know. Probably not, because we're talking now within a year. They're not. They aren't filming anything right this second. We would have heard something if they were. Yeah. So I mean, not next year. So it's going to be unlikely for me this year. But who knows? In a year or two, wouldn't be surprised.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, I kinda wanna say it's gonna be unlikely, but I feel like it's kind of in the same sense to where I think it would be more likely to see Freddy or Nightmare on Elm Street come back than it would be to ever see Scream or something like that come, you know?
I
I
didn't
feel
even
like
talk
we'd
about
have
Stream.
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like we'd have better chances of that happening than
We've
Scream because I feel like
we've,
the
we've
licensing
guessed
and stuff
Scream
is
more
geared for
than
that
enough.
too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
I
would be
don't.
nice, but
Yeah.
nah, we're not going to talk about that.
I'd say
Yeah.
if the rights are in fact at Blumhouse, I'd say likely that we get just like a Nightmare 1 just to get back to Elm Street kind of thing. But if they're still kind of in limbo or if they're back at New Line, I'd say
Mhm.
unlikely. Did either of you have any like IPs or anything like that that you wanted to throw out before we moved into some random, you know, complete shots in the dark for originals?
So there was only one thing that I kind of thought of that I've been seeing over the past couple days, another new video game series that we have in the works now. I don't know if you saw about it, Seamus, but they're making a Fallout series.
A TV show.
Yes,
Yeah,
based on
I have.
Fallout, the video game.
I have heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought could be pretty interesting. I've never played the Fallout games. I'm kind of familiar with them and what they are. I know there's a bunch in the franchise and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I was doing a little bit of research today, and throughout the different games, there is a lot of really like good and like some like creepy like characters, monsters, whatever you play with against them and stuff like that. And I was seeing some of the set production pictures for the series coming out. It looks pretty cool. And I was thinking if they really want to follow that video game trend, that this could be a good thing to do and that maybe it could be a possibility because I feel like Fallout is one of those big names too. The only thing is that I'm pretty sure that Amazon is the one distributing it. I couldn't really tell who like the producers on it were, but I'm not really sure how that would work. But then again, you guys were saying that Universal's buddies with everyone, Netflix, Peacock, so I mean, hey, it could happen, I guess.
Yeah. No, you've made a whole lot of nerds happy by bringing that up. Fallout is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I've myself have put hundreds of hours into Fallout 4.
It's a big draw.
So I love that game. It would be a massive draw. Plus, who doesn't want to see giant irradiated nasty fucking bugs and shit? There's so much shit in the Fallout universe that you can
the food
use.
and the drink opportunities that they could do too and use.
Yeah,
So that would be good.
exactly. I mean, you could get Nuka-Cola.
Yep.
If I could buy an actual Nuka-Cola and
Yeah.
get a bowl of the Atomicos, whatever the fuck the cereal's called in it,
Mhm.
I think that would be crazy. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many things you can do with it. But I think that and it depends. One, yeah, you're right. The distributor of the show would determine whether or not this would actually happen.
Mhm.
And what would you use for a story? Because the thing is Fallout kind of branches a lot of different. It's a very
Exactly.
large universe, so it's got to be super narrowed down and specific to certain things because it takes place all over the place. Like every game is in a different area, a different part of the world,
New
different part of the country.
Vegas, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Right, Vegas, DC, Massachusetts, or New England. There's a whole bunch of different places that it takes. Virginia. So there's a whole lot of different places that it takes place, and you have to kind of like pick and choose what you do. But there's enough big, nasty, irradiated things that you could use as monsters.
Right.
You could even use, the ghouls, which are people that
That's what I was
survived.
looking- yeah. They look pretty
nuclear-
cool.
They survived, or their ancestors survived the blast, but they were irradiated, so now they look like zombies. I think that's another thing you could use. And what makes those interesting too is that like they're not traditional mind-eating zombies. A lot of them aren't like mindless zombies. They're human beings that talk to you like we are right now, but they just look like zombies. So that would be kind of a cool, different way to play with the scare acting, where it's like, hey, I look like a monster, but I'm not.
Yep.
So I think
And
it's
I
kind of
just
cool.
looked it up too, and it does release April 12th of next year, so that is kind of that sweet spot.
Yeah,
of
it's
seeing
right in that
it's in that
period.
sweet
things
spot.
coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Still popular in the domain.
Right.
All right, then. Well, you brought this to the table. Then why don't you kick it off? Then what do you think? Is it unlikely, likely, or very likely?
Likely. I got
Right in the
a good
middle.
feeling. I got a good feeling about it. I don't know why. I think it's likely.
Fallout series. All right,
I
Seamus,
do.
what do you think? Then because you're
You know what? I'll throw Jamie a bone. I'll give this a likely too. I think
Thanks,
that this
buddy.
is. I think there's a good. No, I mean I think you're right. I think this is actually, there's a solid chance this happens. I don't think it's like guaranteed,
Right.
but I think it's a solid chance that you could see this happen. So yeah, I would say likely.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see this. And again, like I'll go. I don't know, man. I'll go unlikely based off of just the fact that I think Five Nights is so likely that kind of fits their video game need.
That was my only thing
But
too.
I think it is a 100% guarantee that we get one of these, whether it's Five Nights, Silent Hill, or Fallout. I think the fact that all three are relevant again
Let's
in
get
both
it.
mediums, video games and video,
Mhm.
and the fact that there's connections amongst all the three, I think there's a 100% chance we get one of the three. I think Five Nights is the likeliest. I would kind of put Silent Hill above Fallout based off of the fact that they've done it before, but I think
I would too.
Fallout's a bigger name than Silent Hill. So it's interesting. That would be cool if they did it. I'd be in for that. Any other IPs that we want to dive into before we get into our complete garbage time where we just air it up in the air and see what happens?
I only got like one for the original, so I don't know how many you guys thought of, but I'm not that creative about thinking of stuff. So I honestly thought more of IPs. So there's one original that I have though that I'm pretty likely about that I think is going to come.
All right.
I don't
Seamus,
have I don't have a particular property, but I think they could go back to the Stephen King well at some point.
That would be nice.
They've released a number of things kind of based in his universe recently that I could see coming down the pipeline as far as something. I mean, obviously we're not getting it. That's not going to happen, but
Sadly, I mean,
there have been a number of things that have come out in the past that he's been attached to. If not Stephen King, I would love to see them do something one of Joe Hill's, his son's stuff, like Nosferatu or the fuck is it called? Fireman would be a good one. I mean, obviously we've done Black Phone, which is Joe Hill, but you know, I'd like to see maybe diving more into his universe too at some point.
Well, and there is a Nosferatu movie coming out.
Not the same. So
December 25th.
every time I bring this up, his Nosferatu is not standard Nosferatu, like, which is the original movie. It's hold on, let me see if I have it. It's a license plate with like N0S4A2, the number, and it's a license plate because the whole story is based around this guy named Charlie Manx, who's very much a vampire character who likes to steal, you know, the souls of children to keep him young. Yeah. It's a really, really crazy story. They made a TV show. It's on Shudder if you want to go watch it. The book is really good if you haven't read it. So I would love to see that in a house. Again, it's one of those things where, is it too out there? Is it too not well known for it to work? Because I think it would work well as a house, but not many people know that it exists. Yeah. Unless you're a reader or you have Shudder and you want to watch something. Other than that, Creepshow. I think Creepshow will be another one that if we haven't done it in a while, do some sort of Creepshow based on the new version of Creepshow. I mean, they obviously have some sort of deal, or not deal, but they've worked with Nicotero before, and he's the producer on it. So I think they could find a way to maybe work something like that in as well.
That'd be interesting. Creepshow again would be a big name.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so originals. Are we going to get another icon? Are we going to dig deep into the history and lore of HHN, pull a character out that we have not really seen fully fleshed out, and give them the domain, give them the keys to the castle, and give them a so-called icon year? Do you think we see an icon this year, like an overarching theme? I mean, we had Pumpkin Lord, we had Dr. Oddfellow. Do we think we go back to that well and kind of build something up?
Ooh,
Jamie?
Excuse me. Sorry. I think it's tough to say because I think that we're going to have... I think they want to keep Dr. Oddfellow around for a little bit longer. I don't think we're going to have him by himself, though, if we do have him back again. I think since we kind of got a little bit of his forestory, his background, all that kind of stuff, I think maybe now they'll bring Jack back and kind of do an Oddfellow versus Jack thing and kind of have them more together. But that's just a possibility, honestly. It's tough to think of other original icons that they would bring back because I feel like with the Pumpkin Lord, they didn't really do too much with him when I thought they'd be doing a little bit more. But then you have people like Eddie and like Cindy Kane and like stuff like that who never really got their chance. And in Fear, I think they used Fear before. Actually, I take that back. But it's tough to say, honestly. I feel like if they do, I feel like it'd be someone we've already had before. I'm not sure if they would do another new icon like how they presented with Oddfellow this year.
Seamus, icon. Think we're getting an icon? Do you think we're going to rehash anybody?
Not
Recycle?
a new icon.
Yep.
If anything, maybe Jack, like Jamie's saying. I hope not. Like, you just did Dr. Oddfellow. Don't give us Jack and Oddfellow. I think you're banking too much on the same crap year to year.
Yeah.
Like, can you give us something different if you're going to do it? Otherwise, don't do an icon at all. Just give us an off year and let us kind of just do some different stuff. So no, I don't think we will.
What about digging back into the well of HR Blood and Guts and giving him a full-on year?
We've said it. You've said it. We brought it up. I think that's a good one.
I would like to, and they did that with Dr. Oddfellow. That was a character deep in the lore that barely surfaced. So why not, take an old toy out, dust him off, give him a little paint job, and throw him back out? The whole Oddfellow and Jack thing, I think, is a really cool idea, but I think that's saved for 35. I think you shelve that for an anniversary year.
You have to.
Give us time to breathe. You don't need Dr. Oddfellow back so soon. You do not need Jack. We know who he is. But I think you take these years leading up to 35 to build up that strong supporting cast of other characters, and you can do kind of new versus old. You can have like Jack versus Oddfellow with the cast of characters behind them and stuff like that. But I think it would be cool to see HR Blood and Guts. You can kind of take some of his history, do that revisionist stuff that they did with Oddfellow, and kind of tie it into another character. You could if you're taking Oddfellow and tying him to Jack, why don't you take HR Blood and Guts and tie him into the director or Usher or something like that? They're both in that video world. So kind of over these next couple of years, take these little random characters, retie them to other characters, and then at 35, do a big this is Jack and Oddfellow's house. This is Blood and Guts and director's house. This is so-and-so.
Kind of like how they did Sweet 16.
Yeah, and then
like
do
that.
Next year you do Cindy Kane, and then you could have the Cindy Kane and Caretaker at 35. You want to pair these up and match them up together. So I think it would be cool to do like Blood and Guts and somehow rewrite the history so that he's tied in with the director, or that he's in that theater that the Usher is at and stuff like that. I think that would be interesting. Any thoughts on
I love
that?
them. I think that'd be great. I love HR Blood and Guts. That was one of my favorite houses from that year that I got to do, that I distinctly remember from other ones since I was a little bit younger. I think that was back in 2011 when they had the Holidays of Horror, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a good idea too, if they want to keep going on that train of bringing in new icons about lore of characters past and whatnot. I think that would be a good choice.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of ties into, or Seamus, do you have any thoughts on the Blood and Guts tie-in?
No, I think
stuff?
it's a good idea. I would like to. I've never seen Blood and Guts, so I'd like to see him myself personally. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Well, that would tie into one of the next houses that was sort of rumored earlier this year, and that would be some sort of Slaughter Cinema. Earlier this year, one of the rumors was the Devil Dogs, I think it was. Yeah, Devil Dogs. Do we tap back into that Slaughter Cinema realm and get either a Slaughter Cinema house or some sort of character poked out of that house to create a new one? Jamie, this is kind of you like this stuff. Do you think we're going to get any kind of Slaughter Cinema?
I feel like, even though it was different years and stuff like that, I feel like the Slaughter Cinema stuff would kind of really tie in if they were to bring HR Blood and Guts back as an icon or do something like that. Because I feel like it's in, like you said, kind of that like movie, like film realm. But I'm pretty sure he had like his own like. I was like I said, I was a little bit younger when it was, and I was reading a little bit about the other day. I think it was like a radio like broadcasting channel essentially is like what he did, and that was his kind of like shtick or whatever. But it's hard to say with Slaughter Cinema because they've done just the one Slaughter Cinema. They haven't done a second one, right? They haven't done a sequel to it.
Yeah, that's why I think
they
we're
have.
due. Yeah,
I think it's a yeah.
I think
very likely. I'll put very likely on Slaughter Cinema. I'll put myself out there.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
how
say
many how many times have they given us, like, in the last 2 years? They've given us like promos for the event, and it always has something to do with like fake movies
yeah,
and shit like that. Like
right.
they're hinting at it. Like I would think that they are, and plus they must love that realm anyways, because there's so much things they can. There's so many things they can do with it.
Mhm.
They can kind of go
Yeah.
hog wild with that. So yes, I'll also put it in the very likely category that we get a Slaughter Cinema.
I'll say
Yeah.
very likely because you're right. I feel like
Oh,
we
we
do
call
get a lot of.
we call it,
We got 3?
I feel
and
like we
call
do
it.
get a lot of Easter eggs relating to Slaughter Cinema,
I
honestly,
think so
like in some of
too.
the tribute stores and stuff like that with some of the posters that you see, and so I think it could be really likely, honestly.
And call it Slaughter sequel.
There you
Oh,
go.
you heard it here.
Um, piggybacking onto something that has been sort of a trend again, cryptids. We got the chupacabras, we got yetis. Do we get another cryptid? Do we get a Jersey Devil? Do we get a Mothman? Do we get something? I don't think we're ever going to get a Nessie house, but
I wish.
be boring as fuck. But do you think we dig back into cryptids? Is it like, is that too much of a trendy thing? Like three years in a row on like an original house being a cryptid? I don't know a crazy amount of like the story of Jersey Devils and Mothmans and stuff like that. But what do we think, Seamus? Do you think we kind of dig into the cryptids again?
Yeah, I want a Wendigo house.
Wendigo would be cool.
I know I keep pulling stuff from my draft, but like I think a Wendigo would be sick or something along those lines. But anything cryptid related would be cool. Jersey Devil would be really fun, or do like a combination house with different ones. But yeah, I think we'll probably go down that road eventually too. That was kind of becoming I wouldn't say it's becoming a trend, but with Yeti being so popular and then just them doing a Yeti house every year, I think they should probably go. Don't do a Yeti this year. Coming up, kind of keep that break. You know what I'm saying? Like that Yeti.
We got our fix.
Chupacabra, Yeti again. Now let's do a different one, and don't do Yeti this year, and maybe go back to Yeti the year after or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think the Yetis we can take and I'm a big Yeti guy, a big Yeti fan. I think it did well, but I think if you want to keep doing cryptids, kind of stay away from them a little bit. Stay away from those big old furry fellows. Jamie, cryptids, what do you think?
I think we need Mothman. I feel like Mothman is the big hype right now. I don't know what it is, but I feel like this last year, I feel like just different like horror company pages and small businesses like I follow on Instagram and stuff like that. I feel like everyone's been doing a lot of Mothman art. I feel like I saw a lot of Mothman, really nice cosplays at Spooky Empire. Just been seeing a lot of fun stuff relating to him. And I feel like it would be good to kind of follow that cryptid train. Like you said, I feel like Yeti, I feel like we already had those last couple years. Time to switch it up. Like you said, we had Chupacabra before. I feel like it'd be kind of fun to do something, a little collaboration house like you guys are mentioning. I wouldn't mind to see, like you said, Seamus, a Wendigo, Mothman, Jersey Devil, just
Wendigo?
something. Wendigo.
Wendigo?
Wendigo.
The Wendigo ain't my baby.
It's not the way I was going with it, but okay.
No.
Wendigo.
Wendigo. You could tell I'm not as familiar with that one.
No,
But
it's okay.
yeah. So I
Jimmy
can see
would be
more of
all
them.
over the Wendigo house.
I was gonna
Yeah, you
say,
would be.
Jimmy, this is Jimmy's forte right here. So if you're listening, Jimbo. But yeah, I could see them going on the route for doing another Cryptids house, especially for an original. And I feel like they wouldn't specifically say the actual name like Mothman, Jersey Devil, kind of like how they did with Yeti. I feel like they weren't actual Yetis because they were more like Bigfoots and different
Yeah.
creatures in that aspect. So I feel like they would kind of take their own little path for it, though.
I'd love to see a big forested Wendigo house. I would say I think it's likely we get a cryptid. I think that like that's probably an easy thing for them to do because it's not like they have to get rights for anything. They can just write their own story about a mythical character, and then if they don't have to call it a certain name, they can change it up a little bit. But yeah, I think it's likely we get something along those lines. Seamus, you think it's likely or unlikely? Very likely.
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 Jamie?
Jamie?
Actually, I give it more very likely. I think we're going to get some sort of cryptid house. I just don't know which one yet.
All right. Jamie?
I say very likely.
Very likely. All right. I'll stick with my likely. We got 2 varies and 1 likely. But it is something that is a trend. So it's something to look at least. Digging back into scare zones. Sweet Revenge. Do we get a major Sweets house? Is he an icon? Does he take the mantle?
No, he's not an icon.
But I mean, would we put him to icon status in this year?
Probably not. I think we'll get a house. That's a good point. I think they could revisit that and give him a house. I don't know what the trend usually is as far as like time between the scare zone and it becoming a house usually, but maybe it's too soon.
Mhm.
But you know,
Let it sit
I
for
don't
another year or so.
I don't think it's impossible. I would honestly think, well, I don't know. Again, back to back is tough, but I could see them doing a vamp house, judging by how popular vamp was this year as a scare zone.
Yeah, I think and that's why I kind of put this on the list, because on a down year of scare zones, kind of going back to one that definitely hit would be a fun, like, being like, yeah, we kind of dropped the ball, but here's a house version of it. It's really good. Here, sorry about that. Um, I don't think it's likely. I'll put it as unlikely, but I'd like to see a sweets house, like a Major Sweets factory, stuff like that. Jamie, thoughts on Major Sweets or Sweets Revenge?
So I was gonna say unlikely only because I was wondering, I was like, how would they even do the house? But kind of like, and then I thought about it too. I guess they would do like a factory of sorts, maybe.
Kind of like Season of the Witch,
That's
honestly.
okay. Yeah, that's what I kind of had in mind then. But yeah, I unfortunately think it's going to be unlikely. As much as the Scare Zone, how much I loved it and how great it was and stuff like that, I feel like that character Sweets just didn't really resonate with me as much, and I feel like it didn't really stick. I know we've seen him pop up in some other little things, whatnot, here and there, but I think it's unlikely.
Unlikely. Seamus, are you unlikely as well for Sweets?
Yeah, I'm unlikely on that one, I think.
One more scare zone that I think. What about Vanity Ball? We gonna do a Vanity Ball house? Really dark, fashion oriented,
That
very
would be
like
awesome.
fever dreamish, like mix a couple categories that we've seen the year and just kind of go full on in that. What do you think on that, Jamie? You think that would be likely at all, or
I think that could be likely. I would really like that as well. I think that
for
would
this year?
be, yeah, for this year coming up. I think so.
Yeah,
You don't think so?
I would love to. I would love to see it.
You
I
kind of
just
caught me
don't.
off guard.
I mean, I didn't even have that on my list. I just kind of thought of it going
Oh,
through the
okay.
scare zones of past, and I only have one more original after this. But I would like to see a Vanity Ball treatment. If I think because it's been a couple of years since it makes it a little bit more likely versus Sweets. I think it's too soon for Sweets, and I think we got Sweets because of the fact that it was 31 Halloween. It fit very
I
well.
agree.
Vanity Ball can kind of fit anywhere for a good house. Um, so I'd love to see that get a house treatment. Seamus, any thoughts on Vanity Ball?
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to think that they would return to that. It's been a while, 2019, right? So
Yeah, it's been a minute.
it's been almost 5 years, or it's been 5 years. So yeah, I could see that happening. Um, I'm not wild about it, but that's just because I wasn't a fan of the scare zone. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I think that's an interesting take. It's an interesting story and it's an interesting idea. At least it's different than what you typically get. So I'm totally down with something that's different than the usual suspects.
Mhm.
Yeah. With the acclaim of Dueling Dragons, do we see them tap into the well of expired rides? And do we get a Poseidon's Fury
Oh my
style
God.
house?
No, please no.
Unlikely. I
Please
actually have
don't.
a really good one that I wanted to talk about, and I'm surprised none of you
Oh,
have said it yet.
All right,
Mine's pretty
we'll discuss
realistic.
that after this one then.
no,
No, we can
Poseidon's
talk about
Fury
Poseidon's, yeah.
no.
with what's his name? Oh God, what's the villain?
It's never gonna happen.
Uh
I don't even know his
Dark
name.
I forget
Dargagon
his
or something
name.
like that.
Yeah, Darkagon or
Darkagon. Got it.
Armagon.
I mean, if they can recreate the water tunnel, that would be cool. I mean,
That's the coolest
we've
part of the
said
whole thing. I mean
that's the best part. It would be very similar to Dueling Dragons, I think, in that it's very fantastical, god oriented. King of Poseidon or whatever it is. Um, no, it'd be interesting. I think I would gravitate more towards that than I did with dragons, because I think the biggest attachment, the biggest draw of doing dragons was people attached to the ride itself. And Poseidon's I actually had a pretty good attachment to. I love that ride. I miss that. Well, not even a ride.
It's not a ride.
Experience show, I guess, is what it is.
Walkthrough?
Attraction.
Attraction.
But yeah, I mean, do they go right back to the well and do that? I mean, the success was there. I'm sure they sold a bunch of the dragon merch. I'm sure they heard a lot of the people talking about it. I think it's unlikely that this year, maybe next year. But Jamie, thoughts on Poseidon's Fury?
Unlikely.
Unlikely.
Yeah.
Seamus?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Unlikely.
If we were to get something else based off another ride, maybe I would say maybe Jaws. If they wanted to go down
Jaws
the
would be
Yeah, I could
interesting.
I
see
think Jaws would be
Jaws
kind of fun.
I mean,
potentially.
that's a tough one with like how do you get the shark as a scare? But
They would probably use a
again, the
big
tough part,
puppet like they did for
yeah,
clowns when they had
I
Clownzilla.
mean, the tough part with that is it's also the IP rights versus just an original
Yeah, that's
thing that
true.
they can do whatever they want with.
That is true.
But yeah, and I had one more written down, and I have no idea why I wrote it down, and I wrote it down months ago. And all I put in my notes app was Mexican luchador, like a wrestling based house, like a horror wrestling luchador style house. I don't know. The masks are kind of creepy. It would be kind of interesting. I would say that is less than very unlikely, but I don't know why I wrote it down. I don't know what made me think that that would what it is. I have no idea why it's there, but I wrote it down, so I had to at least mention it. We don't even have to go around the horn, but I did want to just throw that out there because I thought that was funny.
If Dirty Dom's in the house, I'll go. I'll do it.
Yeah, Dirty Dom, you son of a bitch. Any final thoughts? Any final predictions that
Yes.
are way too early?
I
Any
have one.
even just any themes that you think, Jamie?
I've been waiting for this. I think this is the most likely out of any of them that we're gonna have. I'm very likely. I feel very likely about this that we're gonna get Holidays in Hell transported over from Hollywood. I think we're gonna get it this year. Just not sure if it's gonna be a house or a scare zone yet. I feel
That would
like
be
that's
cool.
one of the most likely things that we'll get because they had it as the scare zone already and they had it as the house over there. And I feel like that was the only year I'd guess something right when we finally got House of Thousand Corpses. I was like, yeah, I'm calling it right now. We're getting House of Thousand Corpses. Hollywood did it last year. You watched, and sure enough, we did. So I always pride
That
myself
would
in
be cool.
that. But I think Holidays in Hell is going to be very likely. I think we're going to get it this year.
And you could tie that into the Blood and Guts if we got that.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
Yep.
Interesting. I like
Yes.
that. Seamus, any last like themes or anything like that you think we might get attached this year?
Maybe. Thinking, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe something sports related. I know I keep talking about sports, but I think that there's an avenue there that they don't really,
They
they
haven't
don't
done something like that.
done anything with. That I think is a possibility, but
Thinking outside the box.
I'd be
I like it.
interested. I'd like to see something Western. I'd like us to dig back into the Western roots, kind of like we had like Curse of Lightning Gulch. I think a Western themed house would be interesting. But yeah, that's all I got. So we'll wrap up this main segment. We didn't do call-ins this week because we knew it was going to be a little bit of a longer episode. But if you do want to call in and leave us a message, we might go through those next week. 689-244-0956. Give us a call, leave a voicemail, and we can kind of discuss. Not sure what we're going to talk about next week. Horror movies of the week or horror watches of the week. Has anybody watched anything recently that they want to at least shout out?
Did we watch anything? I'm trying to think.
I watched, so this is not
I have
necessarily
not.
horror themed, but I've been rewatching Squid Games. I know we didn't mention that in our Netflix portion of our predictions. I don't think we get that here, but it is still a fun series. So if you're interested in what I'm watching, I'm kind of right in the middle of Squid Games because they they put out a new like reality game show of Squid Games. So I was like, let's just watch the series again. Jamie, anything you've watched recently?
I don't think I watched anything recently, to be honest. I was trying to think about it and I was like, I feel like I haven't really watched anything. If it has been something, I feel like it's something I've already watched. And I feel like that something was I rewatched Krampus. I watched Jack Frost not too long ago, the scary one.
Getting into the
Yeah,
season.
I feel like when these like Thanksgiving, Halloween, and Christmas all come around, I feel like during that time, I feel like I just always there's just something in my mind is that you have to watch holiday themed movies, but they got to be horror ones because that's all I watch. I feel like is horror movies. movies.
It's very
But
true.
yeah, so I feel like I haven't watched anything new, but there is something new coming out this weekend that maybe we could do a Shutter Sunday on, but we
Oh
could talk
yeah.
about that at a different time.
Yep. Seamus, anything that you've watched recent-ish?
No, I haven't. Nothing I can think of that's like recently, anyways.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up and get out of here, as you can see, the video stuff, we're doing a whole bunch of new stuff this year. We're going to try and to grow this thing as much as we can. Jamie, what you were alluding to before, our Shutter Sundays, they are back up. We are doing those as often as we can on Sundays. We took this last week off because of Thanksgiving and stuff like that. But yes, It's a Wonderful Knife debuts on Friday. Your boy
Sure
Justin Long is
does.
in it. So
Justin
we'll
Long.
do that for Shutter Sundays. So if you are unfamiliar, Shutter Sundays, if you go to our YouTube page, we do a 10-15 minute dive on a random movie that we find on Shutter. Being that it is the holiday season, I'm sure we'll do a couple holiday movies during the month of December. So we'll kickstart it with It's a Wonderful Knife on Sunday. A couple other new things that we've been doing, what to watch Wednesdays. So if you didn't see any of those on our Twitter or Instagram page, each Wednesday we're going to give you a little recommendation of a movie to watch. And we'll tell you why. We'll give you a little sentence and just another little fun thing. And this Sunday we will be at Sir Henry's Haunted Trail. They're doing their Christmas edition of the Haunted Trail. So if you happen to be there for the media night, say hello. I'm sure we know most
Say
of you.
what's up.
But we'll probably be discussing that next week's episode, talking about the Sir Henry's Haunted Trail and reviews of that. Anything else from anybody before we wrap up and get the fuck on out of here?
Yeah, fuck the New York Rangers. Sorry if you're from New York and you like the Rangers, but your team fucking sucks and I hate it. It's actually more particularly, it's particular players who don't do things that they're supposed to do when I need them to, but that's the point. Other than that, no, I've got nothing else to say.
Jamie?
Nothing from me, buddies.
Nothing? All right. Well, until next time, this is Nick.
This is a degenerate.
This is Jamie.
Happy haunts.
This is cursed. Cursed. It's got a death curse.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
And again, I would just like to thank Vampire Stepdad for letting us use his music for our intro and outro music. So if you would, just go check him out. Spotify, Facebook. Again, that is Vampire Stepdad.